Not quite all white on the night. A costly miss for Chris and Leeds at the Palace. Not the Blades' day either, the moment they might have turned the corner. Well done the new boy, Trevor's second game of the season, first goal. And swimming up the table, a storming win for Grimsby. Action from all four divisions coming up, starting at Sincil Bank with John Helm.
Life at the bottom end of the Football League is all about survival, and one of the game's most romantic stories in the summer was how 19-year-old Spencer Trethewey helped save Aldershot from going into liquidation. He's in the crowd at Sincil Bank, both Lincoln and Aldershot in urgent need of a victory. Lincoln's attack is led today by ex-Sheffield United man Paul Smith, who became the leading scorer this season on Wednesday night when he got his second goal of the campaign as a substitute against Hereford. He's in for Tony Lormer, who's injured. Randall, good turn. Weak shot. Comes down instead to Burville. Here's Stewart. Might get the first shot of the match in. Stewart! And a good effort as well from Ian Stewart. And it floated on the wind, not more than a foot over Mark Wallington's crossbar. Ian Stewart, amazingly, hasn't scored a goal for Aldershot, but he was close to it there. He's played in 83 league games for Aldershot without scoring, and yet he got a few in his days with Newcastle and Portsmouth and Queen's Park Rangers. Now then, the chase is on, and Smith has good pace, and he might get in here for Smith, and it's a good lob as well. So unlucky. What a good try that was by Lincoln's leading scorer. He scored in midweek against Hereford, and he couldn't have done any better really then. The ball, once it was played forward, left Smith in the chase with Whitlock. It was always going to be a difficult bounce for the defender to cope with. Smith has excellent pace, and he went on, lofted it over Sheffield, and he was so unlucky. Now, Bressington manages to unsettle him, and they're calling for the ball over on this side. Here's a great chance for Smith. It was just the wrong angle. Powell it was, actually, who finally got the touch. And Bressington had won the ball, and when the cross came over, it was just too far for Powell to have to stretch. He couldn't direct it on goal. Casey, he's got a lot of room in this right-back position. They're not putting anybody up on him. But can he pick somebody out up front? Is he onside? He is. The flag stays down, and Schofield it was with an excellent opportunity. He stayed down. I think he's probably more winded than anything, but sportingly, Sheffield puts the ball out of play. That's really good sportsmanship from goalkeeper Sheffield. Excellent ball played in here. Schofield had beaten the offside trap and took it on the chest, and he was so vulnerable, Sheffield, but how sportsmanlike of him to put the ball out because he thought the opposition player was injured. It's somehow appropriate that Steve Sims should be playing here for Lincoln City. He was born in the street at the back of the ground, but of course his career has been spent with other clubs like Notts County and Aston Villa. But he's home now. Actually just played 3 games for Burton Albion before Alan Clark brought him here this week. Stewart to Randall. Randall, who loves to run at defences, but hasn't had many opportunities to do that today as yet. Instead, he finds Cooper, the chance of a shot. Instead, he's got it through Burville. Burville again, and Glenn Burville has scored for Aldershot. The goal comes out of nothing, really. But Glenn Burville has given Aldershot a precious lead here in the 40th minute. His first goal of the season. So it was a nice little build-up, and Burville taking it on there and drives it in over Mark Wallington, and Aldershot have the lead. So 5 minutes before half-time, Glenn Burville, Aldershot's longest serving player, serves his side well with a goal. Much for Alan Clark to think about in his first season here as manager at Lincoln City. He's got such thin resources, of course, and very little money to spend on players. So life indeed is tough. Smith on towards Powell, who'll do well to keep it in. He's done that. Gary Powell running at the defender. Gary Powell into the penalty area. Bundled aside by Brown. No penalty. Goal kick, in fact. And I think referee Alf Bucks was right. Despite Powell's objections, it was a good old-fashioned shoulder charge. Powell taking on the defender nicely, but there's where Brown comes in. He shoulder charged him. And what a week of contrast it's been for Alf Bucks. Today he's at Sincilbank. On Wednesday night he was refereeing Inter Milan in Verona. Powell doesn't mind chasing what appear to be lost causes, and he's done really well there. He's gone 40 yards to win that ball, and it's fallen bound handily back to Casey. A good cross here, they might be in trouble! Smith the scorer! An excellent equaliser, and what a good week it is. He's capped it with his second goal of the week, his third of the season. Paul Smith has Lincoln back level. And really, this is all down to Gary Powell chasing what appeared a lost cause, and by the time the ball came in, Smith was in a great position. So Paul Smith, the hero on the terraces once more here at Sincilbank. So Lincoln trying to apply more pressure now. Cooper's headed out to go out of play. Corner for Lincoln, and this is a good spell for them. Well, they talk about fickle football fans. About half-time, they were booing and shouting at their players and telling them to show more effort. Now they've got an equaliser. They're all lifted by that, and they're cheering them again. Lincoln's corner. Brown going for the flick. He's come back instead here. And another good cross, and Smith's header again! He's done it again! 2 in 2 minutes for Paul Smith. And the game has been turned on its head by the heading ability of the former Sheffield United striker. So a good decision by Alan Clark to include Paul Smith today. He rises above a static Aldershot defence, and the ball loops over Sheffield, and Lincoln have the lead. And Aldershot have to bring on Dale Banton, the former York City striker, who's in his second spell at Aldershot. They take off David Puckett. Dale Banton, who's on 98 league goals, would love to register number 99. And again, Aldershot are here, and Stewart, and they're finishing strongly. Jerry Williams, good chance. Williams across, and it's gone over the line, I think. That surely went over the line from Dale Banton, and Aldershot have got their equaliser. It's 2-2. The ball went over the line by no more than a foot. But substitute Banton has got Aldershot's equaliser. Jerry Williams hitting it across the face of Wallington's goal, and Banton at the far post did the rest. And Dale Banton's goal, coming little more than 60 seconds from time, has won Aldershot a point here and consigned Lincoln to their fourth successive home draw. It ended Lincoln 2, Aldershot 2. Dale, what a perfect time to score.
Yes, very nice. We've had a bad time this season away from home, and to come on and get the equaliser in the 89th minute, it was really pleasing for me.
We've spurred on a little bit more by the fact you'd been dropped.
Yes, it was a shock to the system, 2:15. I was told that I wasn't playing, but obviously we're all professionals together, and you're here to do a job, so it was nice to come on and snatch the equaliser.
Paul, did you think you'd done enough when you got your second one?
Yeah, certainly. Things aren't just going our way at the moment. Today we've battled hard the first half, and we've gone in the goal down, and we've come out the second half and took the game by the scruff of the neck, and we should have won on the chance we've created.
And we'll be out for our second half in a couple of minutes with 7 more matches. But off target. Wonder if he'll get his chance on Wednesday week. perhaps as a substitute. They say you get punished for missing chances in football. Leeds paid the ultimate penalty after 54 minutes. White and then Fairclough failed to connect properly, and Leeds got a devastating example of Wright's pace. He and Haddock tussle for it, and with Sterland on the far side playing Palace onside, Haddock's left for dead as Wright sends his captain Jeff Thomas in for the opening goal. The gap between the missed chance at one end and the goal at the other, 13 seconds. But Leeds were level within 5 minutes. Strachan's corner, and no one followed Gary Speed, his first goal since the opening day of the season. Palace 1, Leeds 1.
Old boys reunion day at Bramall Lane. Vinny and Dave Bassett reacquainting themselves with old friends from Wimbledon. And enjoying the early handshakes, Jones's throw led to the opening goal. The first for the club from full-back David Barnes. Sweetly struck too. Barnes' first goal that for more than 2 years. Wimbledon's reputation as fighters has not been won without good reason, though, and they were soon hitting back. Darius Kruzinski's shot against the crossbar, and unusual for Carlton Fairweather to find room for an overhead kick inside the penalty area, the ball somehow eluding Phil Kite. 1-1, but the next incident, the most unsavoury of a highly committed game, as you might have expected. Wimbledon's move apparently going nowhere. Then when Vinnie Jones came in for some rough treatment from John Gale, referee Lunt felt the only option was a red card for the Wimbledon man. The replay shows why. Gale going in far too high. It's the sort of tackle that makes Wimbledon unpopular. Well, the one man who's been able to find the net consistently for United this season has been Brian Deane. But the big man's luck was out with this effort. He usually puts those away, but he couldn't succeed this time with either bite. And Wimbledon rubbed salt into the wounds with the winning goal. John Fashanu had only started the day on the subs bench, but he was on long enough to celebrate getting the winner. I suspect Phil Kite again disappointed to be beaten from that distance. Sheffield United 1, Wimbledon 2. Liverpool's storming start reflected in the table. They're 6 points clear of Arsenal. Leeds holding on nicely to 8th spot, though they've only got half as many points as the leaders. When you look at the bottom, Derby beaten by Liverpool yesterday at 22 points adrift already. Sheffield United's lack of a victory so far keeps them next to bottom.
In Division 2, Sheffield Wednesday played the better football at Twerton Park. Sheridan there, setting up Danny Wilson, Roland Nielsen joining the move. And Carlton Palmer, a little unlucky, just off target. But Wednesday had to absorb plenty of pressure from the team now managed by Trevor Francis's namesake and former roommate on England duty, Jerry Francis. David Mayhew here, foiled by Kevin Pressman, whom Ron Atkinson reckons could be England class himself. The move that brought Wednesday's goal was set up by Nigel Worthington. Carlton Palmer covering acres of ground, and under pressure from Phil King, Ian Alexander only invites Trevor Francis to do what he's done many times before. In for the injured David Hurst, his first goal for Wednesday. Bristol staged a dangerous-looking recovery before half-time. Vaughan Jones's shot from the free kick kept out only by the head of Phil King. This, incidentally, in front of only 6,500 on a ground where fire burned down the main stand last month. Rovers thought they got an equaliser near the end. Substitute Purnell setting up Jones's cross. But although Mayhew had the ball in the net, the referee had already blown for what he saw as a foul on the goalkeeper. Bristol Rovers 0, Sheffield Wednesday 1.
Barnsley's remarkable week continued at Oakwell against Oxford. 5 goals in midweek. They were soon trying to add to the tally. Carl Tyler's header kept out by Les Robinson on the line. Well, Mel Machin's influence is clearly rubbing off. The next attractive move, highlighted by Brian McCord's cross, which ended with Andy Saville's header hitting the top of Oxford's bar. Brian Horton's team are next to bottom of the second division. Despite possessing attractive players like Mark Steen and Paul Simpson, it needed Clive Baker's agility to thwart Simpson here. There must be something at the end of a rainbow for this Barnsley side, and sure enough, they weren't to be denied much longer. 5 minutes after the interval, Andy Saville's good work down the left prompted this effort, tipped onto the bar by Alan Judge. Andy Rammell following in for his 4th goal since moving from Manchester United reserves. Saville deserved a goal for his part in that, and he soon got his reward, a throw-in deflected off the top of an Oxford head, opening the way for Andy to make it 2-0. Oxford did make the odd chance, and Clive Baker was at his sharpest to keep out the next double thrust. Then, to prove it really was Barnsley's day, they rounded it off with their 8th goal of a memorable week. Steve Agnew's pass, Brendan O'Connell going on, and the shot going in off Steve Foster in the last minute. Even O'Connell seemed to indicate it wasn't really his goal. Barnsley 3, Oxford 0. So, in the winners' column, Barnsley and Sheffield Wednesday, but the least said about Hull's trip to the East End, the better. They suffered the humiliation of a 7-1 thrashing at West Ham. South Yorkshire thrilled to have Barnsley up there in 7th place this morning. Sheffield Wednesday still have a game in hand over leaders Oldham, surprisingly held at home to a draw by Blackburn. Not so happy are Hull City. They're 8 places off the bottom, but the goals against Column took a hammering, if you'll excuse the pun. Watford at rock bottom haven't won a match. They've lost all 5 at home.
In Division 3, plenty of action for the rain-soaked crowd at Grimsby to enjoy. This is David Dorrier, the man who scored Swansea's goal at Bradford last month, and McDermott desperately close to an own goal. Some neat football from Grimsby, though, in difficult conditions. Cockrell, Rees, Cunnington and Cockrell. The ball came just a little bit too quickly to him. Then 5 minutes before half-time, the Grimsby goal arrived on the wings of a monsoon. I doubt the crowd at the other end even saw it, but it's Dave Gilbert who punishes the understandable uncertainty in the Swansea defence. Grimsby increased in confidence after that, particularly Gilbert after his goal. They really should have got a second here. Cockrell, and it's Woods in the way of the shot from his own man, and Swansea survive. And in fact, Swansea had much the better of the second half. This is Dorrier again with their best effort of all. Fully 30 yards. Steve Sherwood, though, alert to the danger. This was Grimsby's best effort in the second half. Gilbert again, what a difference a goal makes. His cross, and Alan Davis there to help out his goalkeeper. Grimsby 1, Swansea 0.
The Huddersfield Town bandwagon has rolled into top gear this week. Wins over Chester and Exeter led to hopes of a hat-trick of successes with Leyton Orient, the visitors, to Leeds Road. Keith Edwards was the first to get a chance without being able to take it. Orient's offside trap wasn't too well organised. Ifeonyora next to spring it, but he couldn't get his own angle right. But now for the goal that turned out to be the winner. Again, the move started down the right. From the corner, the ball played back to Kieran O'Regan. He puts over the cross, and recent signing Peter Jackson's header good enough to go in, although at least 3 other players vainly attempted to get the credit. Well, Keith Edwards is regarded primarily as a scorer of goals, but he was the provider for Mark Smith, who was unlucky with this one. Orient themselves didn't really conjure up many chances. Their best effort was undoubtedly that by fullback Howard. A cracking shot thumped off the underside of the bar to safety. Well, to say he's such a big man, Ifeonyora, whose goal had won the points in midweek, has exceptionally good control, as he proved here, eventually setting up Keith Edwards for what could well have proved a truly spectacular goal. It wasn't quite Keith's day. He normally scores from the sort of chances that fell to him yesterday, but even though he curled the next one the wrong side of the upright, Town went on to record their best sequence of victories in 20 months. Huddersfield 1, Leyton Orient 0. Huddersfield and Grimsby not our only winners either. Mansfield's success at Shrewsbury by far their best performance. Bradford suffered more pain, a home defeat by Brentford. Rotherham's calamitous start continued with a defeat at Fulham. Grimsby a mere 2 points behind leaders Southend, who won on Friday night. Huddersfield's tremendous week has rocketed them into the top half of the table. Only just, but it's a start. Despite their failure, Bradford are the next best placed side in the region. Mansfield have made great strides forward, but the not-so-merry Millers of Rotherham have gone the other way, right to the bottom, still with only 1 win to their name.
In Division 4, Halifax's new signing Steve Norris almost scored from 6 yards after just 2 minutes of his debut. Scunthorpe had to be on the defensive for the most part, but Dave Cowling's effort deserved a better fate. The match, incidentally, 22 minutes late starting because Scunthorpe had been stuck on the M62. Brian Butler was involved in most of Halifax's best moves. From his corner, Dave Evans' shot is blocked only by a forest of bodies. Butler again here on the left. Norris's leg just long enough to reach the ball, but not quite long enough to make dangerous contact. Gregory's effort testing Musselwhite, and it is largely due to him that Halifax still haven't scored this season. Halifax 0, Scunthorpe 0. So draws all round in Division 4, those we haven't seen. Chesterfield held at home by Northampton, goalless there. Goalless too, Burnley against York, without an excellent away point for York. Only Doncaster then flying the region's flag in the upper reaches of the division, and they can fly it even higher if they win at Scarborough this afternoon. A win for Scarborough, though, would put them in this top half of the table. There they are at the moment, 14th. Halifax at least managed their second point of the season, but they're now well adrift at the bottom. And remarkably enough, none of those bottom 11 teams lost yesterday. As for Sheffield, only the blue half will enjoy their lunch today, but the Blades' luck must surely change soon, mustn't it?